Okay, Nate. Obviously, there's a few more people working in the hub today, so there might be a little bit of background noise for your viewers, but um, it's not going to matter because everyone's going to be able to hear them tell you all about your thoughts on what happened on the 11th of September in 2001 with the destruction of the World Trade Center in New York.
Well, I remember it very clearly. That day, I got up out of bed to go to school, walked out into the lounge room, and it was on the telly, and people just couldn't believe that it was real. Wasn't it amazing? Unbelievable that happened. For the longest time, I always suspected it was probably an inside job from within the American government to incite justifications for war. Now, I've thought about that long and hard, and I certainly wouldn't put it past factions in the American government to attack their own people as a false flag. I wouldn't put it past the CIA or the FBI to orchestrate such a thing. You know, in the past they've orchestrated false flags, and the CIA in particular, very corrupt organisation with their own agenda. But as I've thought about it over the years as well, I've also realised, if you know your history, you know that Osama bin Laden was trained by the CIA, so there was a relationship there. What was that relationship? He was trained, I believe he was trained by the CIA to fight the Soviets. I have to check that, but he was trained by the CIA. So there was clearly a relationship between the two bodies, between the American government and Osama bin Laden and his network. And sometimes I think perhaps that relationship went sour because that relationship obviously ended and there was bad blood. And I don't think anyone really knows clearly why that relationship between the US government and military and Osama bin Laden went sour. Perhaps I could look into it a bit more. But it seems like there might have been real bad blood, and that Osama bin Laden may have genuinely had a personal issue against America and against the American establishment. I think it's fair to say that Osama bin Laden did dislike America. He wasn't a hater of America. So I think you can say he had motive to attack America. I think there's a chance he may have felt betrayed by America, as if he had been used as a puppet by the CIA and had been, thrown away after use, which is what the CIA have done with different freedom fighting groups that they've financed over the years. They'll finance a group, and then and they'll help the group fight a revolution or whatever they're fighting, and then when they're done, they just discard them, as expendable. That's the CIA's attitude. They use people as tools to their agenda. But I do think it's possible that Osama bin Laden had a personal hatred against America for the souring of the relationship that they had in the beginning, and that may have motivated him to attack America, and that he certainly had a real hatred for America. But also, people will tell you there's evidence of a controlled demolition in 9/11. Now, I went over all that stuff many years ago, probably about 10 years ago. I went over those documentaries that talk about how much it looks like a controlled demolition, and it's pretty convincing. So I'd like to review the evidence again to see whether it looks like the building was blown up. I remember they say it looks like it blew up from the bottom, and you can see that it blows up from the bottom up and then collapses. So were there explosives in the towers, or did they fall simply because of the impact of the plane? I wonder if it will ever come out if there was any conspiracy around 9/11. What would that do to America if it came out that it was an inside job? What would that do to the nation of America if it came out that it was an inside job? I don't pretend to know for certain that it was an inside job. It could have just as easily been that Osama bin Laden genuinely wanted to wage war on America. But really what I think matters more than who did it is what it's turned the world into, because, I remember life in the 90s before 9/11. I remember it clearly, and we didn't have this rigid, strict security focus in our society. So many laws have changed since 9/11. The government can spy on you, the government can invade your privacy, the government can look at your computer, the government's allowed to retain all your digital data for 5 years. Last time I checked, that was the law on the data retention laws. They're allowed to retain any Australians' data for 5 years if they suspect them as a terrorist threat. People can be detained without charge, and a lot of these laws were brought in as counter-terrorism measures after 9/11, and we were told, this is temporary measure, we will revert back to liberal freedoms, we will revert back to civil rights and to human freedoms, but for now we have to be strict and we have to make sure that this terrorism stops. But, it's been, how long has it been now? Jeez, it's been coming on 25 years now since this happened, and we're not seeing these laws being reverted. If anything, security laws are getting stricter, and ASIO and AFP are being given more authority to act on individuals with little evidence, and the government now has this ingrained in law right to invade your privacy and spy on you. None of that existed before 9/11. So, and the community has this urgent sense of everything is about security. You meet people and they're worried. We all feel in danger. And since 9/11, everyone has felt in danger. We always feel like there's a threat. We didn't used to feel this way. We used to be far more relaxed. And we used to, we didn't have all this fear of attacks. 9/11 has been a traumatic experience for the whole world, really, and it's left, and still 25 years later, we're still dealing with the trauma of the fear of attack and the fear and the need for security. And I feel like, those events have driven us towards, we're moving towards an authoritarian state where the state will forfeit people's rights and liberties in the name of security. And if you're deemed as different or an outsider or as doing anything radical, they will remove your right to protest, and they will remove your right to take political action. And they will say you are an agitator and you do not have the right to protest, and it's only going to become stricter, and really, the whole world went this way after 9/11, because I remember people didn't think so much about threats and attacks in the 90s. We weren't so concerned about danger from abroad. And now, people have a mentality now, a very protectionist mentality, that we always have to keep the community safe. And in the name of that, we've given the AFP and we've given ASIO all these powers. And when are these powers going to be taken away and we're going to go back to how it used to be in the 90s? Because we were told this was a temporary thing. All this surveillance state stuff that's going on with the government having legal right to spy on everyone. We were told that this would be a temporary thing. It's not getting retracted. The laws aren't being retracted. It wasn't a temporary measure. And this is what conspiracy theorists would say when they say this was all orchestrated to bring in a police state. And I can see why they think that. But I think it's more of a natural thing. I think 9/11 happened for whatever reasons, whether it was bin Laden or an inside job. And then culture changed towards fear. Our culture changed towards mass fear. And we still haven't come back from that mass fear yet. And that mass fear is driving us towards authoritarianism. Will it ever go back? Will we ever find our way back to the state of mind we were in before 9/11? The younger generation wouldn't understand. They don't even remember 9/11 anymore. They certainly don't remember life in the 90s or the 80s like I do, the late 80s. And how culture and attitudes have changed. And then the long drawn-out Iraq War, which, just reinforced these ideas for so long. And again, on the CIA, we know the CIA fabricated the weapons of mass destruction evidence, so we know we can't trust the CIA. But anyone with any sense knows that we've never been able to trust the CIA. They're renowned for being an organisation that lies pathologically to suit their agenda. But yeah, since 9/11, the world has become very protectionist. And some people don't want to live like that, It's like, we don't want to live in a control state. We want to be free to be ourselves. And we don't feel the government has the right to spy on us or to look at our data. But, those ideas about freedom have been forgotten since 9/11. And everyone is quite happy to sacrifice their liberties to feel safe, because we've all felt so in danger for the last 25 years. So, Now, what are we moving towards since this has happened? Is it going to be this mass authoritarian state? I don't know. Will we sacrifice all freedom and agency and choice and control in the name of security? I don't know. But certainly if you understand how the laws have changed, the anti-terror laws that came in after 9/11, you understand that things are different. It is very different now with regards to what the law says. So I ask you to have a think about that. Those are my thoughts on 9/11.